Welcome to the Generosity Experience, the podcast from Neon One, where we explore how our community show generosity, not just through money, but through relationships, time, and advocacy. I'm Tim Sarrantonio.
And I'm Sam Nyland. Together, we help nonprofit professionals connect more deeply with their communities, move supporters to meaningful action, and simplify how generosity gets done.
Each conversation brings forward the voices and insights that are shaping the future of generosity, from strategy to systems, and everything in between. Welcome to the August episode of the Generosity Experience. This is Tim Sarrantonio, your co-host for today. And I'm excited. We got a great show lined up for you. We have Mallory Erickson, who's going to be joining us shortly. She'll also be speaking at Generosity Exchange, which is now live. Go to neon1.com/GX, and that'll take you to the registration page. So check that out. Now, one of the people that we're going to be hearing from is our own head of research, Abby Jarvis, who's joining again. Abby, how are you this August?
Doing really well. Excited about GX. We've been talking about it a lot today.
Good. Yeah, I was really excited for your submission. So, yeah, it's going to be a really good show. And people are here, though, for the big number, Abby. So let's get into August. What is the big number for August?
The big number this month is 1,520.
1,520. That's very specific, which you usually bring to the table. So why is that a number people should care about?
So when we looked at 5 years of donor behavior for the generosity report, we found that people who gave all 5 years included in that report gave 1,520% more in charitable dollars. So that's pure financial donations, not any of the other stuff. And then people who gave for only 1 year. And that's not just because they gave for a longer period of time. As a general rule, people who were donors year after year gave more dollars every year than they did the year before. So their annual giving grew over time.
I mean, that's obviously extremely important. We're hearing those types of needs coming out of the newest fundraising effectiveness project data, for instance, in Q1. Those $1 to $100 donors, we saw a drop of double digits. So pretty big stuff. So what are 3 actions people can take to start to kind of take advantage of this insight?
Yeah. So I mean, retention is going to be key for all of this. If you want to see this growth, you need to keep people engaged with your work. So the first thing that I would encourage you to do is to set up an email welcome series specifically for new donors. So in that email welcome series, you obviously make them feel really great about their gift, but it's also an opportunity for you to teach them a little more about the work that you do and how their support is going to make an impact. And it's also a really good way to get them involved in other ways and then ultimately set the stage for a second appeal. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would encourage you to do is to really build a solid donor retention strategy that centers on building a relationship with the donor and not necessarily on getting them to the next gift. And Tim, I know this is something you and I have talked a lot about, but this is something that I think is a nuance that's lost sometimes when we talk about donor retention. The goal of a donor retention plan should be to build relationships between an organization and their donors, not to build a bank of donors. So it's a fine distinction, but we know that when a relationship is a center of your communications, the money will follow. But if you treat people or if you talk to people as though they were only a person who maybe might give another donation, retention is much more difficult. And then as you're retaining people, the third thing I would encourage you to do is to look for opportunities to get your donors involved in your work in other ways that are not necessarily just making donations. When we looked at the generosity report, we found that in nearly every case, donors who supported their favorite causes in other ways gave more, they grew their giving over time much more quickly. So as you're focusing on retaining people, don't only focus on keeping them engaged with your emails or in making financial donations. Ask them to participate in volunteer opportunities, send them invitations to events, ask them for their opinions, send them surveys, share different ways for them to get involved. As they do get involved in other ways, they will usually increase their giving over time.
I think that's fantastic insight. You've also inspired what I want to unpack in my ending segment on philanthropic psychology. So
Mm.
I think especially that middle one, I'm going to maybe tease out a bit.
Yeah,
So, Abby,
the
yeah,
relationship thing is huge.
the relationship thing is huge. Hi Sam, we see you. It's all good. I'm going to cut this out for real. I have editing time because we're well in advance. Okay, Abby. You're also going to
Yes.
be speaking at Generosity Exchange,
Yes.
actually on October 15th. That's the day
Mhm.
that you're speaking. What could people expect? Give a little teaser for people.
Sure. So much of what I'm going to be talking about is really going to center on the topics that you and I just talked about. We're going to look at how you can get a more complete understanding of how donors behave. And then how to use those donor behaviors and motivations to put together really effective Giving Tuesday and year end campaigns.
Mm, I love it. I'm so excited. I'm so happy that you can join us for August, and we will see you in September.
See you then.
Welcome back, everyone. Really excited for August's guest. Mallory Erickson is somebody who I've known for a few years now, and she wears a lot of hats. So I'm really excited to welcome Mallory to the Generosity Experience. And Mallory, say hello to our audience of excited nonprofit leaders, and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're doing to kind of make a living in our world here.
Well, that is a loose term at the moment, but
I know. That's why it's best for you to introduce yourself at this point.
well, thank you, Tim. It's so great to be here with you, and I love all of our conversations together. I'm Mallory Erickson. I am, really at my core, a nonprofit leader and fundraiser. I became an accidental fundraiser as I started to get up through promoted up through nonprofits. I really started in the education and grassroots environmental action space. And I really didn't like fundraising and felt super uncomfortable and felt like I couldn't figure out how to make it work for me. Ended up getting certified as an executive coach, trained in habit and behavior design and design thinking. And those frameworks just fundamentally changed the way that I fundraised. And not only did it have big financial implications, but it felt really different. And then I wanted to share that with as many people as I could. And so started just sharing with my peers organically. That turned into a full-time coaching and consulting business, which I've been doing since 2021. And the inspiration behind my podcast and book, What the Fundraising, which is really all about understanding the relationship between how we feel and what we do. And this simultaneous decline in donor, participation in certain ways and fundraiser burnout. And my beliefs that those are really rooted in the transactional ways we've been taught to fundraise and a lot of other, complicated factors that make this an unbelievably challenging role. And today I focus my time on my most recent solution to kind of addressing this tension point, which is a tool called Practivated, which is a donor simulation tool, coaching tool using generative AI, but that's really focused on not replacing humans, but actually building capacity inside fundraisers, building their confidence, skills, and support so that they can build more connected human relationships. And so we just launched Practivated in May of 2025, and it's been really amazing to my North Star is always to improve the lives of fundraisers and to do that for as many people as I can, as effectively as I can. And Practivated has turned out to be the way that I can really make a big impact on a sector I care so deeply about at a moment that is unbelievably hard for them.
Well, and what I've always appreciated about you is that you have your pulse pretty deeply on where the next move is going to happen in almost small intentional ways, right? Like Gosh, our tech bros love talking about AI and the transformation of that. But the reality is that a lot of nonprofit people are a little, freaked out about it. And what I love
Mm,
about your work is that you kind of help them recalibrate. So
mm.
we're going to hear more about this, not only in our discussion here, but at Generosity Exchange. You're coming back for it again. We're at the point where my team gets nervous putting sessions up against yours because they think no one is going to show up to theirs. I don't know if I've told you that, but that is
No.
true. Yeah. Okay, so that's true. That's an internal conversation. Yeah. Do we have to put it like? What do we have to like? They brainstorm. I'm like, you need to bring the noise. That's what you need to do. So we're going to talk about that, folks. If you haven't registered yet, it's neon1.com/GX. But before we talk about tech, before we talk about any of these things, I actually want to slow it down a bit for us, Mallory, because humans are boundless in the things that they can be impassionate about. What is something non-work related that you're deeply passionate or excited about, especially as a parent during summer? I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, this is my real first like kind of parenting summer where I have a kid in public school and we have dealt with the summer camp shuffle. So I've made about 45,000 mistakes about how to organize the summer. So I would not say that I'm passionate about that necessarily, but it has been, I mean, definitely my, outside of work and outside of my work is so connected to like who I am and what I'm thinking about and focused on in so many different areas of my life. But definitely my second passion, my first passion, but the other thing I would say are my kids. And so I have a 6-year-old Emmy and a 1-year-old Isla, who's actually almost 2. Can't believe it. And I just get so much joy from them. And I feel like becoming a mom, I turned 40 this year. And it's really like brought me back to a place of play and like silliness and goofiness and just like opened up this part of me that I feel like is so important in my own like mental health. And I just like really have decided that motherhood is going to be really freaking fun. And I focus on that with my kids and I am having a ton of fun.
I love that. It actually reminds me, I was watching a podcast clip of Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul and Nobody, the movie Nobody, and stuff like that, Mr. Show. But he was asked, what advice, or is anybody that you're jealous of? And he's like, people with young kids, because I knew my job. My job was to be a dad for them, right? It's like pick up the shoes and go pack the lunches. And he's like, that's my job, right? And so I thought that was a beautiful answer. And you kind of help inspire this in me too, right? Where we talk about this and the kind of the struggles of parenthood, as well as balancing so many different things, Mallory. Let's transition to talking about Generosity Exchange, because this is a thing that we just identified. You're a mainstay. You're a big draw on October 15th. What are you going to be talking to people about?
Yeah, so my focus for this year is really on how you build connection powered fundraising that lasts. I think more and more this becomes more and more sort of complicated and important every single year, which is that we are becoming more disconnected from each other. I talk about in What the Fundraising, the way that isolation leads to burnout. We think about burnout just as overwork, but isolation has been scientifically proven to increase stress, chronic stress, ultimately burnout. And we are seeing that in droves inside our organizations, with our communities, with our donor communities, and I think we use buzzwords like connection and storytelling and community, and as if we all kind of have the same understanding around what it means to build, create, hold space for, respect, all of those different things. And I want to break it down into like fundraising digestible fundraising strategies that people can really implement to help them understand, hey, when you're being recommended to do this thing, it's because I know people love it when I do a little bit of the brain science piece and the connection around the brain science on the donor side, but also the brain science on the fundraiser side. And that's the thing. Connection is a felt experience. It is a neural, it is happening in our nervous system. It is happening in our brains. And so it's so helpful, I think, to understand those components, because it just gives a lot of intention. It creates a lot of intention around why we take the actions that we do. And I love when Generosity Exchange is every year, because I feel like, leading into end of year giving Tuesday, end of year giving, I feel like it's just such a great time to like reset almost and be like, okay, maybe you're feeling a little scattered. You're spinning 12,000 plates right now as you think about these next things. But at the end of the day, what's the point of all of this? And I really want to like give people that moment, and then some really tactical, easy to implement or adjust strategies to make their end of year giving as strong as possible and to feel the best they can doing it.
And that's one of the, I think that's one of the main reasons that you keep blowing everything out of the water when it comes to people's feedback. And we're heading into our 6th year of Generosity Exchange. But I think that's a really good call out in terms of what people need, and especially where technology is changing. And I want to talk about the tech, like some of the cool stuff that you're doing with Practivated next, but to just address the fact that when it seems like the game has changed on a weekly basis, what can we use to ground ourselves? And I think that you're getting to the heart of that. Like, there's a multiverse of reasons why somebody might give, right? And it might even change depending on how they're feeling that day, right? I actually I was just at Bridge Conference where the fundraising AI breakfast, they did address that you felt your presence was felt there. But during that conference, Chirian Koshi actually had a really good presentation where he pointed out that most people read like their email on the toilet. And he walked through like the day of a donor that starts with that. They read your email and then they go out, and then like, what are the things that we're doing for camp morning, right? Right. That 7:30 to 8:15 time then shifts, and then it's drop them off, and then it's this, and then the thing comes up, and then you might remember the email later on. And so did your love go away? No, not necessarily, but it got distracted. So let's actually shift and address that. How, how did Practivated actually come to be to help balance this reality that you want to have meaningful conversations with people, but that technology can absolutely help with that? Because I also want you to make it clear, this isn't like an AI bot that is talking to donors. So what exactly, how did Practivated come to be based on your own experiences and as well as the experiences of many small to mid-sized nonprofits, right? Like, this isn't just big nonprofit stuff. So tell us more about that. I think people would be really interested.
Yeah. And actually, I would say I feel like it's even more important for small to mid-sized nonprofits in a lot of ways. And so, for me, I have been over the last 5 years really focused on understanding the moments in a fundraiser's day or experience where they deal with a lot of resistance and fear. And the way I've sort of like backpedaled or like gotten into that is I've identified as a coach, when I was coaching organizations one-on-one, fundraisers, like, okay, all these actions, right? On a coaching call, I would say, okay, for this week, here are the things, for you to do. And you're going to come back next week and we're going to debrief them. And the fundraiser wouldn't take that, wouldn't do it. And I get on the call and they'd say, oh, I was so busy. I had all these other things to do. And I'd say, okay, well then on this call, let's draft the emails. And so all you have to do is click send. All you have to do is press that red button after this call. We come back the next week. Oh, I didn't do it. I had all these other things. I was like, but the action was not hard to do.
Yeah. And
what I kept uncovering time and time again was that all of that is fear-based, and it makes perfect sense. And it's 100% what I experienced as a fundraiser. So I'm not trying to be dismissive of that at all. Then a few years ago, I sent an email out to my list. I just wanted to learn a little bit more about the fundraisers who were following me, how to provide resources that were really valuable to them. This was probably like 3 years ago now, because then I had like a baby and fundraising AI and all the things. And I asked how many more donor meetings would people want a week? And there were like 5 different answers or 6 different answers. The most common answer was 1. The second most common answer was 0. And I remember the moment that I like looked at those results, and I couldn't process it. I was like, everybody who's on my list wants to raise more money, and somehow we think we can do that talking to people less. And I was like, this is fundraising is broken. This is broken.
Yeah.
Like, if this is not just that this is what's happening, but this is we don't have the desire to. And desire, motivation, that is directly in relationship to our fear. And so I was like, I have to solve this problem. Like, I have to solve this problem.
Yeah.
I have to figure out how to give fundraisers the confidence, capacity, knowledge to want those meetings, so they're sending those outreach emails, to want those meetings so they're finding the time, to want those meetings because then they're connecting deeply with donors, because that's what's going to move money towards what matters most. So Practivated, the ability for me to solve that problem really did change when generative AI came on the scene in the way that it did. I mean, I am not a big like an AI for everything person, like that just is not my MO at all. And but generative AI and the ability to have voice conversations with a tool and fully contextualized to the moment that they're in, right? No robot training, you say this, then I say this, but like a fully contextualized conversation. Then to get feedback on, we give feedback on 16 skill indicators. You can have a 5-minute donor simulated conversation with voice that feels unbelievably real. That is like the number one thing that we hear. So creepy, I agree. It's a little creepy, but it's so
Is it just the voice?
Right now, it's just voice.
I think that's okay.
Yes, I do too. I think we need baby steps in here.
Yeah.
And so it's just a voice. You have a voice conversation with the donor. You can pick by, you can create your own avatars, create your own simulated experience. You can also choose from our library of practice scenarios. Inside the practice scenarios are not just like, oh, meet with a major donor about blank, or, meet with a corporate sponsor around X, or a foundation about this, but it's also getting rejected, having the overhead conversation, dealing with a donor with budget concerns. It's all of those moments that I have been hearing for 5 years are where people experience the most fear. I want you to be able to say the things out loud. We have so much conversation on LinkedIn about overhead and about, all these things. But we're all in theory. High level, and we're just cheering each other on for the concept. But like, how do you translate that into an actual conversation with the donor? That's what Practivated is designed for. And then after you have those simulated conversations, you get feedback on, as I was saying, 16 indicators and around what we noticed, why it matters, what to try next. Those 16 indicators are in 4 skill categories. And then we have a coach inside the platform, an AI coach, Tivy, our octopus. We love Tivy.
We love Tivy.
Connect with Tivy on LinkedIn. She's got her own page now. We love Tivy. And she will give you feedback on each indicator. So you can click into the indicator and she will have seen your transcript, seen your feedback. She'll be able to say, when the donor said this, here's what you could have said to bridge the connection to alignment with them even better. As a human coach, I could have never listened to a fundraiser's 5-minute conversation and given feedback on 16 skills in an unbiased way, and then be able to pinpoint where exactly in the conversation they could have said something differently to deepen emotional resonance, storytelling. And so for me, I think as we think about AI in general, that's how it sort of came to be, was really me just creating this for my folks. Originally, this was for folks inside my program, clients that I worked with, to solve a problem that I, as a human, could not do. I couldn't do this for them. And so I wanted it for them. And then, it became its own thing, because it is solving a completely unaddressed challenge in our sector.
Could you share a story of something that's kind of delighted you from people interacting with it?
Yeah. So there's two. I'm going to share 2 quick things.
I'll take 2. I'll take 2.
One thing that was really interesting, because it shows my own kind of like limiting beliefs or fears. So we have this university inside the system, and I was looking at the usage of all the users on the team. And there was this one user who had used it a tiny bit, 7 minutes. Everybody else had been using it, so much more than that, 7 minutes. And I was very close to emailing him and being like, hey, is everything okay? I want to make sure you're having a good experience. Like, is there, anyways, I get an email before I have the time to email this user. His boss emails me and says, Mallory, I just want to let you know we had our first win from a donor meeting from using Practivated. So-and-so used it on their way to a donor meeting and raised $5,000 that we weren't expecting. And so what that did for me was realize how big of a challenge we have that can actually be addressed so quickly with a different solution and a different tool than we've ever tried before. And this is not about raising more money in more transactional ways. This is all about how do you build more connected human relationships that move money. That's the in an alignment first fundraising way. And so, but 7 minutes for $5,000, to me, that is just, my goal is to improve the lives of fundraisers, to move more money into our sector. And there is a speed component to that, especially right now, as organizations are getting gutted, where they do need to be able to activate people in meaningful, sustainable ways. So that for me was a huge win. And then I just love hearing the way that it's changed people's confidence. I love hearing that fundraisers are feeling better every day in their work. And they're feeling more supported because of Tivy. They're feeling more prepared. They're knowing what to say. They're having clarity. I just feel like I am actually regulating the nervous system of so many fundraisers at once, which is always my goal. And I'm just, it's just been so awesome.
Well, and I know we're going to hear a lot more about these types of practical things at Generosity Exchange, as well as, of course, the ongoing work that you're doing. This is an August episode, folks. Check out Mallory between this time and October 15th at neon1.com/GX. Got to throw it in there. Mallory, let's round things out then with a little bit of that kind of grounding intention, because one of the things that you're also good at is those small habits. Those little things that people can do. What's a small habit or kind of like thing that you're doing that is helping you during these times?
I think the more overwhelmed we get and the more opportunity, like the more kind of scattered we might feel, because to your point, things are changing week to week, or there's just so much more overwhelm. Our nervous systems are in fight, flight, freeze a lot more and kind of oscillating back and forth. Analysis paralysis can just be such a big challenge. And I've been hearing more, this is a habit for fundraisers, but I do use it in my own life. But I've heard more and more recently from fundraisers inside the Alignment Fundraising Collective and just like in my world that like they're looking at donor lists and they're not knowing what to do, where to start, how to, and so this is going to be a very unexpected habit. I'm gonna actually give people two again, because I just like one, I'm just like, I don't know, my brain,
because you pack so much value into everything.
I can't. So I close your eyes and pick. Like inside Power Partners, we have something called 5 and Dive, actually, where you aren't allowed to prospect more than 5 funders at a time before you outreach to them. So that's a habit that we use inside Power Partners, really effective in just making sure you don't get into that analysis paralysis. But then even if you're having trouble picking 5, close your eyes. It doesn't matter. Like action is the antidote to fear. And we are so caught up right now in doing the exact right thing. Who's the exact right donor to start with in my outreach? Who's the exact right thing? That binary, like good, bad thinking is a stress response. So close your eyes, click on a line in that Excel spreadsheet or in your Neon dashboard, whatever it is, put your cursor over it and go. Like that's my habit. Just make it tiny, take action. You will build momentum from there. Don't overthink it. And then the second piece is find a buddy, and they don't have to be another fundraiser, who can help you in serious moments where you can't take action on something that you need to do. So I said that story before about, drafting emails with clients and then telling them to click the red button. And so but maybe you need your colleague to walk over to your desk and click the red button. I joke a lot that she was then 5, now 6-year-old, Emmy, submitted my book to Wiley because I was so in all my perfectionism and so overwhelmed with submitting this thing that was going to be like frozen forever in time that I couldn't do it. I could not click send. So I got the email all set up and I said, Emmy, can you come over here and click this red button? And she sent it. And that is a habit. That is a habit that I love for 2 reasons. It brings people together and reduces isolation. And it helps you get over the action line, like with support. And just recognize that thing's scary. That's okay. Bring your friend in, have them click the button.
I think we got our podcast episode title. Just click the button. Mallory, always a pleasure. Any final words before we transition? People are going to be hearing from me right after this. I do a little segment on motivation and behavior. So this has inspired me, as well as Abby Jarvis's big number. But any final words for people?
Just, I hope to see you all at Generosity Exchange. I love being there every year. It's become such a staple of my year, too, that I look forward to. And I really do spend so much time trying to put together something that's going to be really meaningful and really impactful and unique. And you haven't heard before from me. So I really sign up, go right now. And I really hope to see you there. And, when you're there, tell me in the chat that you heard the episode, or, any other reflections that you have, and then connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to know you heard this and what was meaningful for you, or just to say hi. I more than anything want to be connecting with fundraisers. So thank you for having me, Tim.
Oh, thank you for joining us on the Generosity Experience. We're going to have some pretty robust show notes for this one too. So stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back. So welcome back. And this is the segment where I talk a bit about motivations of donors. And I kind of want to flip it a bit for this month and talk about the role of fundraisers and the agency that you have as a fundraiser when you see a report, or you look at data in your system, or you're asked to do something by your board that seems kind of out of character for the community that you serve. Because ultimately, when I see a lot of the online chatter, for instance, the kind of the cesspool that can be LinkedIn, especially, what I'm witnessing underneath the grandstanding, underneath the kind of emoji-filled reasons why somebody wants you to buy something, is ultimately a misunderstanding of what database management actually is. It's not a product. Yes, I mean, there's a thing to buy, but what it represents is the electronic representation of your work, and the tool that you choose, the actions that you take with it, the ways that you even think about the role of technology in your life. It can either control you, or you can work alongside of it at this point. It's not even a matter of you trying to control the technology. Artificial intelligence has made that point moot. And so we need to start looking at how all of these things work in concert with each other. So when you look at a report like the Fundraising Effectiveness Project, and you see that donors who gave between $1 and $100 has dropped in the first quarter by double digits, I don't want you to look at that and go, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that, or well, that's not for me. That's for all of us. We have a participation issue in traditional philanthropy. It's not that people are less generous. Giving Tuesday's data has shown that, or talk to any random person who's not in the nonprofit sector, and they're likely doing something to help somebody in their community. It's whether it's being tracked. And so the purpose isn't to track every single interaction. It's to track things with intention and purpose. And so the question I have for you is, are you tracking with purpose? Or did you let the technology company kind of make those decisions for you? Did you let the board make those decisions for you? What agency do you have that you want to have when it comes to your technology. So big thoughts, big questions. So what do we practically do with this, right? So one of the cool things that I suggest is set up a conversation with your fundraising leadership. And that could be board members, that could be volunteers, that could be program people, right? Everybody can be a fundraiser. It's not a title. It's a mindset. What are we doing? We are connecting people's passion and interest and love to the work that we are doing. So if you know that going in, then talk about the ideal person who supports and loves the work that you do. Talk about an actual person and explicitly focus on people who don't give big gifts, right? Say, we're not going to look at the money. Maybe if you even run a report and you hand it to people and you strip that information out and you say, what do you know about these people? And then when you start to talk about why, ask yourself, well, why are they giving? If you don't have that information, then how can you start tracking that? You could put a field donor note. That's something that Neon CRM has, for instance. You can make it as a custom field in another database if you don't have that. But does the way you talk about and think about those people when you close your eyes and you say to yourself, and I want you to do that while listening to this, close your eyes. Who donates to you? Who loves you? Who supports you? Who advocates for you? Who's talking about you when you're not there? What do they look like? What do they say? What do they think? What do they do? Is that captured in the database? Just open up the account record and start looking at it and do a little audit, just a snapshot, and go, does this actually reflect the work that I do? Because if you can't see that in an account record, you're not going to see it with AI, in FEP reports, and any of this type of stuff. So it starts that small. Well, that was a fantastic conversation with Mallory. We heard from Abby about the big number. You'll be able to check out both of these amazing speakers at this year's Generosity Exchange, which is on October 15th and 16th. Head over to neon1.com/GX to register for free today. Now, speaking of Generosity Exchange, we actually have a fun guest. But first, before I do that, I have to bring on my co-host, Sam Nyland, to tell us who we're going to hear from later this month. Hi, Sam. How are you this August?
I am doing fantastic, Tim.
What's going on in Colorado right now?
Well, it's still about 95 degrees and hot and sunny, but yeah, we're trucking along. We're doing a lot of hanging out by the river, so it's been great.
Love it. Well, I am excited about this month's guest because I basically heavily requested that he should be the guest this month, because who is it this month, Sam?
Yeah, so this month's guest, we're super excited. He was actually the co-host of last year's Generosity Exchange. Ding, ding, ding. It is Ben Williams, the executive director at the Connect Center, located near you, I believe, in upstate New York. I believe in Albany, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that a lot of times when we went to the Bridge conference together, which is a big marketing and direct mail conference, and he was the only nonprofit that probably said out of his mouth, I'm a revenue of $500,000. This is conference where we had like the United Nations Foundation and just the biggest like nonprofits go to this thing. So I'm excited for you to chat with him because he's just going to share a little bit of what he learned there. And I know you have some stuff to ask him too.
Yeah, we're super excited. The Connect Center is a really pretty awesome space. I think he's going to talk about that. It's, I think, housed in a over 100-year-old church cathedral. A lot of pretty awesome programs that the Connect Center offers, and I know Ben is, fully entwined in all of those programs. Obviously, being the executive director, but he's going to share a lot more about the youth, but then also fundraising, of course. So,
cool. Well, I can't wait to listen in, and that's going to be in 2 weeks, folks. So we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yep. See you then.
Thanks for listening to the Generosity Experience. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast listening platform. We'll see you in 2 weeks.